All right, a successful launch. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 58 of Striking Fury, the official podcast for the Empire Strikers. And hello to obviously all you MASL fans and lovers of all things indoor soccer. My name is Christian Filliman, otherwise known as Philly, and joining me, the doctor, Jonathan Reimer.
Good evening, everyone. But of course, more importantly, Philly, joining us this season as the official sponsor of Striking Fury, none other than Omnitrans.
Yeah, Omnitrans is the proud sponsor of Striking Fury and your ride to the Strikers games and everywhere else you want to go in San Bernardino County. Omnitrans also offers free rides for students at local schools, supporting the next generation of soccer athletes and getting them to school, practice, and games for free. Visit omnitrans.org for more information and plan your next ride. And now that we've paid our bills, many of you are probably wondering where the heck is Panda? And I know a lot of y'all tune in because you like to see Panda. Panda has, I'm just as sad as you are. Panda has, she's been working really hard as of late in the hospital because, she's putting in her shifts. My mother-in-law is going to be in town on Saturday, and she's actually going to be at Toyota Arena at the game against Monterrey as well. So Panda's just trying to get all her shifts in as much as she can just to pick up a couple extra bucks. And on top of that, she's been training relentlessly for the LA Marathon that she's going to be running in March, which coincides with a game where we play against the Sockers. So we're going to have to prop her up for that. So apologies to anybody here that wanted to tune into this for her. Yeah, she's not here, but hey, tune in next time. Same channel, same place.
But you get our lovable faces. Are we not endearing to you, the masses out there in whatever corner of the world you may be tuning into this from? We still got 2 games to recap. We still got some hot news floating around the MASL. And, with Omnitrans offering free rides, maybe they could offer a free ride to Max Ferdinand because it looks like he's on the move.
Well played. Well played. You are the king of moving this thing along. That's right. Max Ferdinand, if you didn't know, was a member of the Empire Strikers, along with Lucas Roque, by the way, and William Van Zella. And the Strikers, as of today, traded him back to Milwaukee for cash considerations. That obviously is going to make Waves fan very happy because he spent a significant amount of time there. That 2015 season all the way through 2020 had a lot of success with Milwaukee. And, as of the COVID season in 2021, went to the ambush, spent a couple of seasons in Baltimore, and now he's back in Milwaukee. Doctor, he didn't feature for us, so, not much to really talk about there. But any thoughts on Max Ferdinand going to Milwaukee for Monday?
From an Empire point of view, it's hard to tell exactly how this worked out because we don't know what the cash considerations were in order to acquire his rights. We don't know what the cash considerations are for the transfer of his rights. So it could have been really great business, and hats off to Jeff and Jimmy and Oliver and everyone there. But we don't know because those things aren't public, right? From an Empire standpoint, they only acquired those rights with the intent of moving them. It didn't sound like they ever intended for him to come out and play. So one could only hope that if that was the intent and that was the result, that it ended up being good business. Hats off to everyone. I hope he has some great performances for the Wave. They're excited to see him. It's a bummer that it didn't work out. I think we could have used him here, but it doesn't sound like that was ever part of the plan.
Yeah, I don't know if he was ever going to make the flight out here. I mean, from everything that we had heard in our little world, it didn't seem as if he was ever going to wear an Empire Strikers jersey. But at the very least, there was something to be had from that. And, shout out to Scotty Fellows. Yeah, you guys are getting him back. And he was obviously very successful with y'all. Look, Max Ferdinand's a hell of a player. Absolutely dynamic and talented and still got plenty to give. Question in the chat by Scotty Fellows. Will Roque ever play again? Whether or not he plays again, I have no idea. Whether or not he plays for us, the Empire Strikers, that has yet to be determined. He's dealing with some personal stuff, although I did see photos of him in Brazil recently, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. But, we hope. Let's just put it that way. We hope. We love Lucas Roque. He did manage to take the trip down to Mexico the beginning of the season, but we have yet to see him at Toyota Arena. Lucas, we know you're listening to this. You're a big fan of the pod. Come back, or at least just come here. There's no comeback. You never really were here, but come back, please.
Just come. Just come. I think that's what Empire would like to see happen here. But Yeah, look, we signed him with the greatest of intentions. Hope that everything personally works out so that he can finally make an appearance. Be a great time in the season to add a piece like that. So, Mr. Roque, I hope everything works out well for you in your neck of the woods, and you're able to end up in our neck of the woods, because that would be a really fun piece to see at the front of this Empire attack.
Yeah, look, we may not be having like the great weather of South Florida or Brazil for that matter, but after this weekend, after we hit some rain showers, it should go back to normal, right? We're hoping. Anyways,
there's no snow, right? I mean, we're complaining about it rains once or twice a month. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there listening to this that would be like, wait, it's 70 to 80 degrees every other day, and you're complaining about a little bit of rain.
Look, I'll never complain. Being from the Northeast, I moved out to California for those reasons. If I want to ski, I can just drive up and ski. If I want to go to the beach, I can go to the beach. And the beautiful part about it is I can do all of that in the same day, but I am way too tired, way too busy, and not that ambitious. And I hate snow.
In addition to doing all of those things, you could also head to an Empire Strikers President's Day clinic.
There you go. Another smooth segue by the Dr. Jonathan Reimer. President's Day is going to be on February the 19th, and the Empire Strikers are hosting a President's Day clinic from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Ralph Lewis Sports Complex in Fontana. And whether you're a beginner or an advanced player, age 6 to 4, all skill levels are welcome. There's going to be Empire Strikers players on there, hanging out, teaching, doing the lessons, obviously sticking around for photographs and autographs afterwards. And yeah, it's $40, one-day clinic, Ralph Lewis Sports Complex, 6198 Citrus Avenue, Fontana, California, on February the 19th, President's Day.
Crushed it. That's really exciting. I mean, anytime you get a chance to get tutelage from the pros is a killer opportunity. You could see we had so many of Izzy Cisse's youth team, the Youth Fury team that he brought out, and they were congratulating him on getting his 100th point, and just seeing and talking to some of those people and hearing how impactful his coaching had been and his mentorship had been to some of those young kids. I mean, the opportunity to get a similar experience for your kid is a killer one. So get out there, sign up for the President's Day Clinic. That is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see here. Before we move on to some more news around the MASL, we'd like to give a shout out once again to our friends at Omnitrans, the proud sponsor of Striking Fury, your ride to Strikers games and everywhere else you want to go in San Bernardino County. Omnitrans is now hiring bus operators, mechanics, and vehicle service workers. Earn great wages, get up to $1,000 sign-on bonus, and enjoy great benefits, including medical, dental, tuition reimbursement. Working for Omnitrans is more than just a job. It's a career. Visit omnitrans.org/mycareer and apply today. And wow,
there you go.
You've got that device. Oh, I was going to say, while you've got that device in your hand, you're playing around on the website, I want you to just go ahead and head on over to the App Store, Yatu's App Store, or wherever it is that you get your apps from, and check out the new Empire Strikers app.
Yep.
Fire.
Yep. We're working on a beautiful new app. Thank you, Jonathan. And it's going to be loaded with a whole bunch of content that's going to be exclusive to just the app. The app doesn't cost anything. It's still a work in progress. I mean, the idea is to really get this thing up fully functional and unbelievable by next season. But yeah, we're moving into a new direction, and we're hoping that other teams are going to follow suit. You're going to have access to the shop, access to tickets, definitely access to news, access to this podcast, access to exclusive content. So check out the Empire Strikers app. It's free, and it's pretty darn neat. I will say that. I've had apps before for other teams that were within a beta version that were absolute dog poop. This right here, this is pretty darn cool, and we're just getting started with it. So
yeah, you're going to have some really cool functions there in the future. We know there's going to be merch attached in the future, tickets, player interviews. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to grow and build out of this app. So download it, get in on the ground floor, and you get to see all that cool stuff as it develops.
Absolutely. One more last bit of information, though, before we head into the game. So, and this, it includes a couple of former players from the Ontario Fury / Empire Strikers. February the 15th through the 24th, we'll be having the FIFA Beach World Cup in the UAE. You get to watch a lot of that for free on FIFA Plus. And congratulations to former Strikers / Fury members, Chris Toth and Nick Pereira, for getting the call up to the U.S. men's national team. They're going to be representing the red, white, and blue in the United Arab Emirates as they're looking to face off between with another 15 teams internationally. And beach soccer is a lot of fun. Those aren't the only two MASL players, of course. Ricardo Carvalho, which we have nothing but love and respect for. Alessandro Canali is on there as well. So just throwing those names out there. February 15th through the 24th, you can catch those games on FIFA Plus. They will be for free. So that's it as far as the housekeeping. We've already paid the bills a couple of times with 2 sponsor reads. Now let's get into the game recaps. Doctor, we got 2 games to go over. One game that almost went our way, but didn't, and one game that almost went our way, but almost didn't.
I mean, both games had an insane, wild finish to them, but both games had the exact same lead up to the wild finish, just different results. And I think from an Empire point of view, it was fantastic to get our first win at home, to be able to leave the stadium knowing that we had been the best team on the day was finally something we were all eager to do. But the manner in which these 2 games ended certainly has to leave you scratching your head. But let's go ahead and dive into it. Let's get into the first half, which I think the first half of both of these games, you know, Empire obviously played a pretty intense first half both nights. So why don't we go ahead and start out with Tacoma?
Yeah, absolutely. The Tacoma game was just was on Thursday. It was a fun, action-packed game in which the Strikers were very much involved, even from the onset. So many games we've played in the past where we have either like gone down early and had to claw back, or in this case, go up. We had Justin Stinson starting the scoring off, and man, did he have himself a great game. He's been on a bit of a tear lately in terms of scoring, but also more importantly, facilitating. But yeah, that first quarter, the first half, such back and forth efforts. I mean, between Stinson, Jamel Cox, Nick Pereira, obviously Marco Fabian continuing to do unbelievable things. It was a wild and exciting first half. And I would say arguably one of the most competitive and most fun first halves that we've seen out of this Empire Strikers team this season.
It was back and forth action. You were getting golazos from either team. There was good defense was being played. I mean, it looked like solid indoor soccer, right? Close battle, 1 goal separating either side. And you really felt like you were in for a great match at that point in time. Fabian Golazo, you cannot leave him open out there at the yellow line. And I love that that has become part of his game just 9 or so games into his MASL tenure. Teams now know if he has the ball and he's up top of you have to go bring a defender out and you have to come in and press him, because if you just leave him wide open at the top, he'll just pick a corner and ping it in every time. And Marco discovering that ability, figuring out how to exploit it, figuring out how to draw defenses in and now make the next pass in order to move around them, something we saw later on. I mean, this is exactly why Marco Fabian's adjustment to the MASL has been so rapid, so prolific, and the points he's putting up are killing it. And it's moments like this to me that help really define that, not just the crazy scissor kicks, and we'll get to that stuff in a minute.
Yeah, and the chemistry that he has with his teammates, in particular Justin and Mijatovic, has really been the difference maker in terms of us scoring multiple goals. Marco, look, I could tell you from personal experience, because you and I have had plenty of time at this point to chat with him and get to know him. He's very humble, low-key kind of guy who wants to succeed and wants his teammates to be involved. I mean, we went out to Bubba's Tacos after a game. I think it was the game against the Outlaws, if I'm not mistaken. And he was out there with everybody, just having a good time, chilling. And obviously, this is a guy who's done some pretty tremendous things in the world of the outdoor game. So his teammates love him. He's having a good time, and it shows. I mean, when you have some established indoor players like with the likes of a Justin Stinson or a Stefan Mijatovic, and then all of a sudden you're bringing in a superstar, a global superstar, the likes of Marco Fabian, the question is whether or not the chemistry would be there. How would they all be able to get along and adjust? And get along and adjust, they absolutely did, because, well, you know, if it wasn't Justin scoring a goal, if it wasn't Marco scoring a goal, it was Justin, and the other way around. And for the most part, they assisted towards each other on a lot of these goals.
What was also sensational about this game is we crushed the third quarter. We absolutely came out of the locker room after halftime, got the first 2 goals of the third, and ended up winning the third quarter 3-1. This to me is massive. We've talked a lot this season about how coming out of the locker room, we just haven't had the same level of intensity and energy. And in this game, we absolutely had it. And at this point, through 3 quarters, we're cruising into that fourth with a lead. Just need to keep that pressure on, right, Philly?
Yeah, just need to keep that pressure on, and kept that pressure on. We did for a significant portion of the quarter. I mean, it was very competitive, very action-packed. We opted to play more defensively. And I see, if you notice, the stats changed, because after the conclusion of the game, about even 24 hours afterwards, the stats showed that the Strikers had 0 shots on goal in the fourth quarter. So that was an eyebrow raiser, if you will. But apparently those stats were incorrect, because we've added 2 on there. But the Strikers had no goals, unfortunately. And where the backs really got broken, an even strength goal, Chris Toth, our former keeper, putting in the tie at even strength at the 12:42 mark. I mean, that one really, really hurt. We know Chris can score goals. We've seen him do it in beach plenty of times. We've also seen him do it in indoors plenty of times, but we haven't seen him do it against us. In fact, I don't even recall if during the 2021 season he did score on us when he was a member at Tacoma. I forget, but that really was a backbreaker, and that led to another backbreaker by a player who put the nail on the coffin the last time Tacoma was up in Toyota Arena. Doctor, why don't you finish this one off?
You know, I just want to back up just a second there. I mean, you do such a good job of absorbing pressure throughout all of the fourth quarter. You get into the super sixth attacker, super goalkeeper coming forward, and Chris Toth, right? And Toth's going to fire one in. I'm just surprised that no one rotated over and tried to step into him before that shot came in. But you're right. What is much more frustrating is the Canale goal right after. I mean,
no, it wasn't Canale.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have my notes wrong? Am I at the wrong part?
Kyle Rivers.
Oh, Kyle Rivers. I'm sorry. My apologies, Mr. Rivers.
You good.
When you've just given up a goal, the score is now tied. You cannot give up a breakaway like the one Rivers had down the end there, and give up that cheap goal with just seconds later. I mean, that's a moment you have to rally, and you have to completely be able to shift from one mindset of defending the sixth attacker to being in a completely different mindset of there's a minute left in the game and it's tied. And we just got stuck moving from defending the sixth attacker and that not working, and then trying to regroup and get to the point where we can now play a tie game with a minute left. And we just could not switch gears mentally quick enough. And that has to be something we've got to work on, because moments like this where you're up a goal and a minute and a half later, you're down a goal and the game's over. I mean, those just tear you apart.
Now, tear us apart. And look, we played a phenomenal third quarter. We got 10 shots off within the third quarter. That was more than anybody got off throughout each of the quarters individually. And we got rewarded that way. It's no surprise that we end up scoring 3 goals in the third quarter off of 10 shots. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Then no surprise as to why we didn't really have any offensive output in the fourth quarter, because no goals, apparently on 2 shots. But that stat for a fact I know changed, because it was 0 for a number of days. Any way you slice or dice it, Strikers did outshoot Tacoma. But Tacoma, being as crafty as they are, they won the game, and hats off to them yet again. Nick Pereira had himself a hat trick. Juice Cox had a massive game, 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists, but got to give credit where credit is due to our boys as well. Justin Stinson had a phenomenal game, 3 goals and an assist. Monaco Fabian had himself 3 goals and an assist, and it was a beautiful game up until the very end. It was unfortunate because that was a 6-point turnaround.
Tacoma's a 6-point swing. It was a 6-point swing, but there were other moments in this game where Empire was in on the keeper one-on-one, and outside of Stinson and Fabian and maybe Mijatovic, we just were lacking somebody that had their finishing boots with them that day, because we had quite a few opportunities that really should have tested Toth a little better. And to his credit, there were times when Toth made some incredible saves as well too. But a 6-point swing at the death. I mean, it's really, really a dagger, especially against Tacoma, the team you're going to have to leapfrog unless you're assuming that Chihuahua is going to fall apart at this point, which I don't think is going to happen.
Highly unlikely.
I mean, Tacoma is absolutely 100% the team you have to beat, and that minute and a half could be very, very telling at the end of the season.
Yeah, it might be a game that we're going to look back on and go, shoot, we might have had a shot at playoffs had we pulled that one off. But anyway, that's how that game ends. We go into Sunday against a team that we have had a short amount of history with, in that of the St. Louis Ambush. We didn't really play each other for the first number of years within the inception of the modern day MASL. Where we really played St. Louis was during that 2021 season, and we played them a couple of times to the point where then the Ontario Fury was undefeated during that COVID season. I mean, that was a really good season by the Ontario Fury. MASL Cup finalists. Just have to throw that out there, even though it seems like it was forever and a day ago. And we did play each other early on in the season on December the 9th, a game that ended 8-7 at the Family Arena. That was a game in which Empire got off the boards and got off hot quick. 3 goals to start things off with, but then, of course, St. Louis rallied themselves back 4-2 heading into halftime. And, well, you know, the Strikers did take a lead, but then William Eske got hot. Thankfully, the clock ended up running out of time, and we walked out with our first win of the season and our first road win, 8-7. And here we are. We're setting the table straight up against St. Louis this past Sunday, and they were coming off less than 24 hours from having played a game against the Sockers, a game in which, let's just put it that way, that wouldn't be the game for either Sockers or Ambush or MASL to show new fans as a reason as to why to watch this sport.
It got, it got a little sleepy in the second half there, but a thorough 8-2 trouncing coming in. So one would think that Empire had everything going for him. A team that's playing on back-to-backs, that's traveling on the road, that's coming into your house. But we talked about it during our pregame show. The addition of Vicmore Eligwe has really changed the forefront of the attack for the Ambush. And it took 6 minutes into the game for him to find the back of the net. And we're starting to scratch our heads thinking, oh my, this Ambush team may not be as road weary as we expected them to be, but come that second quarter, Empire did something that they really haven't done all season. They went on an absolute tear. It was fun. It was quick moving, free flowing soccer, and the goals were just raining in the second quarter.
I mean, they were. Momo guy got himself going, and he had his best game as an Empire striker. And I mean, I don't want to, tip it anything to us. We did have the chance to chat with Momo prior to the game just to make sure that we recorded some content so everybody out in the league knows how to pronounce his name, because there's been a lot of variations on the pronunciation of Momo's name. Momo guy getting things started for the Empire Strikers. And it wasn't too long. Gerardo got himself on the board in what was one of the prettiest dishes / dimes I've seen all season long. Justin Stinson with the beautiful setup, enabling Miguel Ponce to head his way into the scoring books. Finally, we have another newcomer getting on the scoring sheet for the Empire Strikers, and hats off to Justin Stinson. This was his best game as a distributor. He ended up with 4 assists, but hardly any as pretty as that dime piece that he initiated to Ponce.
Justin had 3 dimes in this second quarter alone, I believe. And the most beautiful one of the game might even be the best assist we've seen so far this season. I mean, just floating that ball perfectly to the back post for Ponce to go ahead and hammer it home, get his first official MASL goal. I mean, it was a beautiful moment, but as authoritative as the header was and as great a moment as it was for Miguel Angel Ponce, it's the assist. It's the assist that makes the goal. I mean, it's just on a platter for Ponce.
Absolutely. And the strikers were great within that second quarter. I mean, if you look at the amount of shots they took 12 shots within that second quarter. They scored 5 goals. What an offensive juggernaut of a performance in that particular quarter. Marco Fabian had that unbelievable, I think that was the one where we had the scissor kick that went off of Sam Guernsey. Unfortunate to Sam. We do like Sam here in the IE, but that was a mammoth shot, a very ambitious attempt that just hit the right way. Steph got himself on the boards as well. Richard Schmerman clawed another one back for St. Louis, but we're feeling really good heading into the locker room. Up 5-2, but
I just want to roll back real quick to the Mijatovic goal, where it's the back and forth between Fabian. Fabian has the chance to get himself a hat trick in a quarter.
Yep.
Right. That rarely, I mean, even in the MASL, a hat trick within a quarter is a big deal. And all Fabian has to do is pick a corner and hammer it home. Right. There's a chance the keeper beats him, maybe. But it's Marco Fabian. He's going for a hat trick. Instead, he passes the ball, takes an extra pass he did not need to make to get Mijatovic in the corner to be able to put that one home. And that was one of the most unselfish team moments. And I just wanted to highlight that real quick because Marco Fabian had every right to go for the hat trick there. And if Toth makes an incredible save, we're talking about Toth making an incredible save, right?
Oh.
And
Paulo.
Paulo, sorry. We're talking about Paulo, which he had some phenomenal saves in this.
Paulo's
game.
Great,
but to take that extra pass was just a commentary on Marco's adaptation within to the team that I thought went unnoticed.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up. You're 100% right. We talked about the chemistry between Stinson and Marco, but the chemistry between Marco and Steph is really huge too, and that'll come up once again in a very crucial time. When these players score, just take a look at their body language and how they respond and how they just go towards one another. Like what I can tell you, not to say that this wasn't the case the past couple of seasons with the Empire Strikers team, but you can genuinely tell these players are really, really, what's the word I'm looking for here? They want one another to succeed. The chemistry, yes, this is a team without a doubt. They deal with the struggles together. They deal with the victories and the wins, although there haven't been that many wins. Hopefully they change things. But you can tell they're bonded, and that's really, really crucial considering the fact that pretty much everything, top to bottom, has been, for the most part, new on the Empire Strikers team this season.
So we get to the other side of halftime. Here comes the third quarter once again, and the hairs start creeping up on the back of our necks, and Gerardo comes out and hammers one home, and a sense of complacency hit you and I in the booth about this game, and a sense of complacency was palpable amongst the Empire Strikers out on the turf because they absolutely took their foot off the gas.
Oh yeah,
and allowed the ambush to come storming back into this game with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 unanswered goals in a row in order for them to take the lead, and what appeared to be at that moment a repeat of the performance versus Tacoma. Once again, you have a lead. There's a minute and a half left in the game. You're facing a sixth attacker, in this case, the keeper coming forward across the line with the ball. Keeper takes a shot, ball goes in, game's tied. And seconds later, you capitulate with yet another game-winning goal. And it really felt like a very, very deflating moment. And up comes the right guy for this moment.
Yeah, no,
right?
I mean, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, a guy who has really, really lived up to being his namesake throughout the course of this moment and this season. And it's not just any guy. It's Momo guy.
Boy, did he save our rear ends, didn't he, John? He obviously he caught a deflection as to how and why that landed in. But after Paulo tied it and Eske put up the ambush, I mean, I thought you and I were going to call yet another L this season. You and I don't remember the last time we called a win at Toyota Arena. It was a long time ago. It was a very, very long time ago. And William Eske had that free run. You don't leave that guy with that much space. He's going to punish you. But Momo absolutely saved our rear ends with 5.4 seconds left in the game, and that brings us into overtime. We shouldn't have been in overtime to begin with. But thankfully, the boys didn't give up. Momo, a huge goal, his second of the night. Best game as a member of the Empire Strikers, and it couldn't have come at a better time. And this is our first overtime call of the season. If you remember last year or even the year before that, there were so many games that we were calling going in overtime. You and I had extra games to call.
I think we had like 3 in a row go to overtime.
Oh, yeah.
One of those went to a penalty shootout as well, too. And we were so exhausted. We were like, please, somebody miss so we can go.
We even had that in Monterey, man. Not even just at home, but what a overtime, thankfully, didn't last all that long. It was all about 5 minutes and 56 seconds. And why don't you give the run-up of the play?
The last 2 goals scored of the first half are a budding new partnership that I'm really, really happy about. And it's the Mijatovic-Marco connection. We talked about it in the unselfish goal earlier, but just establishing that passing back and forth between the hola Pablo. That kind of connection and establishing those types of partnerships that happened at the end of the first half are exactly what create moments like this in overtime, right? Marco fakes one way, turns the other way, sees Mijatovic there, gets the ball to his feet, and knows that if he just cuts back and turns the other corner, Mijatovic is going to feed him the 1-2 real quick. And he's able to create that space and just hammer the ball in. And it's just simple one-touch passing, quick movements, give and goes. That is beautiful indoor soccer. And to see it executed by those 2 players together in that moment to win us the game was flawless way for it to end.
Stinson, Marco, and Steph are connecting and firing on so many cylinders. And with that, the padding that was right where the goal was, it took me a split second during the broadcast to realize that Marco actually scored, that it didn't come off of the post. It was such an exciting back and forth affair that by the time we called Marco's the final goal of the game, I had no voice.
We did have 2 goals. 2 goals in this game go inside the goal, hit off something, and bounce back out that should have in any normal goal. And I don't know, we got to figure out what's going on. There's a bolt loose or something back there.
Yeah.
But we had 2 balls that I thought were in that bounced back out wildly in the course of this game. So it's not, though, that wasn't predicated by some actual stuff that had happened earlier in the game where a ball looked like it had gone in, but maybe didn't. And in that moment, especially from where we're up on the 12th floor, like it can be kind of hard sometimes to notice exactly what's going on there. But fantastic moment. Strikers win, confetti, champagne. It was, I mean, it was everything. It was like winning the World Series, baby.
First home win of the season, the first W you and I called. Marco had 2 goals and an assist. Justin had his best game, I think, that I've ever seen. Justin had 2 assists going into this game. He walked out of Toyota Arena with 4 today, 6 altogether. He had a big game. James Togba put in a goal, 2 assists for 3 points. But we've talked so much about the offense, and Pablo right here is correct, absolutely. Brian Orozco got his first start of the season. In fact, Brian Orozco actually got his first start, I think, ever as a member of the Empire Strikers. Last season, he got in some games, but I mean, it was really tough with the goalkeeping platoon that we had between the likes of Chris Toth and obviously, Clayson DeLima was there to a certain extent. But Brian Orozco getting the start ahead of Brandon Gomez. And Brian Orozco is an up-and-coming, amazing goalkeeper. As we mentioned on the broadcast, did his U17 in Guatemala at Comunicaciones, plays for their futsal team. The kid can play, and he absolutely shined today. He made some tremendous saves in this game, keeping us in. If he didn't play the kind of game that he did, I don't know if we're talking about a W today. So as much as it was incredible seeing Marco, Steph, and Stinson, and obviously Momo getting his brace, Brian Orozco was a huge part of the W as well.
I don't know. Pablo's also Guatemalan. It could just be that. No, he had a phenomenal game. His distribution was exactly what you would like to see from an indoor keeper. As much as I feel Gomez has a lot of upside in this league from a shot stopping ability, we've seen him have errant passes that have been picked off and come back for goals a lot. And he's got to tidy up that corner of his game before he comes back. Orozco, the shot stopping was there. And also I thought his distribution, I mean, it wasn't perhaps the most dynamic, but it was on point. It didn't lead to any big turnovers. That's a super important piece of the game, and I thought really helped keep us in this one.
Yeah. Just a couple more notes about the game. So 8-7, it's repeat performance that the Strikers had at Family Arena, where they won also by a score of 8-7, albeit not an overtime game. 33 shots to St. Louis's 29. So that was really good on that front. Our first W of the season at home, which was huge, our third win of the season. And for those that were fortunate enough to be at Toyota Arena or to watch the game live as it was going on, this was one of the most exciting games of indoor soccer. Between the back and forth affairs, we kind of jokingly said that the St. Louis San Diego game the night before, the 8-2, wasn't exactly an indicator as to how and why this game could be as exciting as it is. But that game against the Ambush and the Strikers was awesome. And I mean, I don't want to say it was the best because I'd have to think about this because, God, you and I have called a ton of games at this point, but definitely one of the most entertaining games that I can think of in recent history. We had a damn good time on that call, and you could tell. I walked out of the booth sounding like I just smoked an entire pack of Lucky Strikes. My voice was shot.
It was you the rest of the night were kind of talking like this, like I was calling a game earlier. I'm a little sorry. I thought it was hilarious, but one thing there is, just to play devil's advocate and just to knock us down off our high horse a little bit.
Oh, give me a break. Why do you have to do this?
There was a point conceded and a point dropped at home, right?
Yeah,
this is a game that arguably the Strikers should have won. We now currently sit on 8 points on the season, having played 12 games. The two teams we are chasing, having only played 10 games, being Chihuahua and Tacoma, sit on 15 and 16 points, respectively, Tacoma on top. So with 2 games in hand, they currently have a 7 to 8 point lead on Empire for that final playoff spot in the West. And what this simply comes down to is that going forward, Empire has to get 3 points at home, even against big teams, and have to start getting points on the road as well, too. Or the playoff opportunity is going to slip away from them. But it is possible this weekend to play Dragon Slayer and be the Akbar that the Empire should be. And we have a chance to really help Monterrey get their first loss of the season. And I know a lot of people think that's crazy, but we have some reasoning behind this, don't we, Philly?
Yeah, but it's still, it's just one more thing quick. One more quick thing. And then we do our preview. Marco has scored in every game that he's played for the Empire Strikers. It's 13 goals, 10 assists, 23 points. Stinson's got 12 goals. Steph's got 10 goals. Gerardo and Steph, 7 assists. They're playing outstanding. And I know there's the conversation. It came up as to what the record is for most games by a newcomer to a team or a rookie and all that other stuff. I want to give a shout out to our statistician extraordinaire, Bill Norris. Bill told us something really interesting. So obviously Marco's having a solid outing, but when Frank Tayu came to the Ontario Fury, he did score in 27 straight games for the Fury, a streak that ran from December 13th, 2019 until March the 5th, 2021. One of those games, yes, clearly in lockdown. That is a huge, huge run. I mean, in that time, Frank scored 57 goals and scored a hat trick. He had hat trick streaks in like 4 or 5 games. So if there's any records to be broken, those are some pretty lofty numbers to catch up to the king, Frank Tayu. But either way,
just 1/3 of the way there.
Fair.
9/27, 1/3 of the way to passing Frank Tayu.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because Bill does an extensive amount of research, and I want him to get the credit that credit is due. He also brought up the fact that, look, Adrian Perez did a lot of amazing things too, but he didn't score in his first 3 games. And then from there, he rattled off a 14-game scoring streak. And then as far as rookie numbers are concerned, I'm sure Gordy Gerson had some pretty unbelievable numbers, but we didn't have all the statistics for that. So just wanted to make sure that y'all heard that news. Yes, Marco is killing it, and we are so lucky to have him. But that's what he has to go up against, the 27-game straight game scoring streak by Frank Tayu. Yeesh.
Well, Marco Fabian, soon to be the unanimous MASL newcomer of the year. I think that's already decided at this point. Anyone who thinks otherwise might have some sort of laughable complaint, but we shall see as the rest of the season goes on. But if you're voting today, it's a runaway. But yeah, you know, we shall see. But he has a chance up against the big Mexican team to show, you know, there's a little extra spice in this match for Messieurs Fabian, Ponce, Jurado, to have the big team from Monterrey come into town and perhaps learn a little something or two from the strikers, my friend.
Monterrey is who we're going to be facing off in our next game. Monterrey, without a doubt, the class of the league. 13-game winning streak. They're averaging 8.5 goals per game, a goal differential of plus 55, a penalty kill of 85%. But one mark where they haven't been that great is power play, 17%. But they've got so many players that can kill you. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players that are in double figures in terms of points. And it obviously all starts with Renato Castillo. What's very impressive about this Monterrey Flash team is if you look at the stats and all the stars in the MASL, you're not going to see very many members of the Monterrey Flash from an offensive perspective. And a lot of that has to deal with the fact that they play a total team affair. They do all these tremendous things. They've scored 110 goals. They've only allowed 55. They're undefeated both at home and on the road, but they really are playing as a team with a big core of players that played on Monterrey last season, but also bringing back a lot of players that were on the Chihuahua Savage that also, of course, were once on the Monterrey Flash.
110 goals in 13 games. 110 goals in 13 games. That's wild. That's wild. I mean, that's nearly 10 goals a game average is just ludicrous, right? What they're doing this season and doing it across the entire squad, depth in every position. They've traveled well. They've played well north of the border, which is not something we typically see. They've handled the change from going from the west to the east remarkably well. They've taken on the Savage on the road and gotten wins. I mean, they've checked virtually every box. But what I think benefits Empire this upcoming weekend is I think there's a sense of complacency that has to settle in for Monterrey. They're also going to have to start resting some people and taking a trip north of the border and potentially not bringing an entire squad, you know, is something that I could see perhaps play into Empire's favor going into this weekend.
We will be rested. Strikers have a week to prepare for Monterrey. Monterrey is already in the United States. I've seen plenty of photos of them hanging out in Seattle. They're going to be taking on the Tacoma Stars, and that should prove to be advantageous to Empire because, well, they're going to have a little less rest than we'd like them to. But while that might be the only thing that would give us an advantage, you got to think that with a lot of these players, right, and some of them have played on Liga MX teams. Castillo, for that matter, you know, started his career at Tigres. You have Walter Ayubi, who played over 200 games at Monterrey. They just brought in another kid from Monterrey, by the way. I mean, there's players that, you know, go back and, know, obviously, Fabian during his time and tenure at Chivas. You know they're going to bring it to both him and Ponce and go, hey, you may not have remembered me when I was playing at Tigres or Pumas or some of the other clubs, but here I am, brother, and I'm here to attack and here to let you know who I am and for you to never forget me again. So I think they're still going to rise to the level of this potential game right here because of the fact that they're playing against who they're playing against. Monterrey is a tough team, a team that we never had success against. We never beat Monterrey until last season, where we swept them twice. First time in franchise history, and a big win at Arena Monterrey, a place that this organization has never won. But obviously, you know, new team, new players, and all that other stuff, but still want to set the table so y'all know all the facts.
All right, look, I think you're absolutely right. There's two sides to the coin. There's the travel, the short rest. They're playing Friday, traveling Saturday, playing again Sunday. What roster will they bring north of the border? That's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is you're absolutely right. These guys are going to get up for a chance to play against the likes of Ponce, and Marco Fabian, of course. But you never know. And I think Monterrey has been picking off a lot of these teams in the East. And I think they're going to have a little bit more trouble when they start having to make some of these West Coast trips. Now, we know they've certainly handled Chihuahua well, but having to play Tacoma and Empire in a 48-hour stretch, that's going to be a tough one for any team on the road, especially a team traveling with potentially a short roster. So that is why I think we have the chance to have our Admiral Akbar moment. And there's a trap, and we could take him out. Who knows?
Yeah, if you really want to get a good idea, because there's a bunch of players on Monterrey who had, P1 visa scenarios, and members that if you look down the list of the roster, like you remember Iran Pollo Ruiz for San Diego, he obviously had P1 visa issues. Big Rojo had P1 visa issues. So the question is, who are they going to bring? The best determinator of that is go take a look at the Flash's roster when they went to Panther Arena on January the 28th, a game in which, by the way, Milwaukee stole a point from Monterrey, but they definitely brought in their big guns. That goes without saying, but one big gun, no, actually, never mind. He did make the trip. They brought in all their best players. Let's just put it that way. They brought in Berna. They brought in Christian Hernandez, who's also a phenomenal backup keeper who could be a starter anywhere else. So don't think that the P1 visa issue is going to be any kind of deterrent, because if you look at that roster again against Milwaukee, this is without a doubt, Monterrey's squad.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one, but I'm saying there's a chance.
Be such a huge game. Look, crazier things have happened. If we talk about sports, college basketball, we never thought we'd see a 16th seed beat a number one. We've seen it twice in the last 5-6 years. Crazier things have definitely happened. It would be pretty darn cool for you and I to be at an opportunity to call the upset of the season, because that's what it will be. If Empire beats Monterrey, up to this point, it will be the upset of the season. But I think they have the capabilities, the talent, and the skill to do so. But they have to play a complete game. They cannot take a quarter off and expect to be in it, because Monterrey is going to punish the heck out of the Strikers. And they're walking in with a little bit of swagger anyway, knowing that they whooped up on our boys 9-2 down in Monterrey early this season.
History might also be ironically on our side in this case. The last time a team was undefeated this far into a season, I believe it was us knocking off the undefeated team in that moment. So it's not as though Empire hasn't been in this situation before and come out victorious. So there's hope. Hope, my friend. A new hope, perhaps, for Empire.
There you go. It's a trap, New Hope. You're on a Star Wars kick today. May the Force be with us, and may we be able to pull out an upset. I believe, and for those of you who are watching that are on the fence about coming to see this game, come to see this game, because you'll still see some unbelievable action one way or another. You're still going to see Fabian, Steph, Stinson, Momo, our great keepers in that of Orozco and Gomez, but you're also going to see the class right now of the MASL. That's also a good enough reason to come through. And we hope to see you at Toyota Arena. If not, you know exactly where to find us on Sunday evening, live from Toyota Arena on Twitch.
Amen. Before we head out, folks, we would like to give a shout out to Omnitrans, the proud sponsor of Striking Fury, and your ride to Strikers games and everywhere else you want to go in San Bernardino County. Omnitrans is now hiring bus operators, mechanics, and vehicle service workers. Earn great wages, get up to $1,000 sign-on bonus, and enjoy great benefits, including medical, dental, and tuition reimbursement. Working for Omnitrans is more than a job, it's a career. Visit omnitrans.org/mycareer and apply today. Philly?
We got to get those words on the screen so you can look the viewers in the eye as you're reading the commercial.
Yeah, well, it's long, come on, give me some time. I'll memorize it, I guess.
Yeah. All right. On behalf of myself and Panda, which, by the way, if you're just joining, wondering where the heck she is, I'm going to reiterate, she's been working hard at the hospital, putting in multiple shifts. My mother-in-law's coming in Saturday, and she's been training really hard for the LA Marathon. So she needed the night off. In fact, the minute she got home, she went right to bed. I've barely had more than 20 words with Panda. But that's not to say that you won't see her on Sunday, and you'll definitely see her next week for episode 59. We're just around the corner from 60. So thank you for tuning in. Philly and the Doc, we's out.
Strike hard.
Defend the empire.
No mercy.
Hey.